The millionaire CEO rejected 8 models, but is fascinated by a single mother delivery girl. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let's dive into today's story. Imagine this. A millionaire CEO, powerful, wealthy, and successful, had been through endless blind dates with glamorous models, but none of them ever made a real connection with him. He found them to be superficial, too focused on his wealth, and disconnected from the things that mattered to him. His heart was closed, his life routine set, until one day, fate led him to an encounter that would change everything. It was a rainy afternoon, and the city's skyline shimmered under the gray clouds as he walked out of his penthouse. His driver had already arranged everything for another blind date with a well-known model, but as he sat in the back of the limo, his mind wandered. Could he really find someone who understood him beyond his money? As he entered the upscale restaurant, his thoughts were interrupted by the hostess who guided him to his table. Sitting there, elegantly dressed, was a beautiful woman. But she wasn't the model he was expecting. She was wearing a simple outfit, a fitted jacket, jeans, and a scarf. Her hair was pulled back into a neat ponytail, and she was busy scribbling in her notebook. She didn't even notice him at first. Confused, he glanced at the menu, trying to push away the feeling of disappointment. This wasn't the date he was hoping for. She looked up, her eyes meeting his for the first time. "Oh, I'm sorry," she said, standing up. "I think I'm at the wrong table." She quickly apologized, looking flustered. But something in her eyes, her genuine warmth and sincerity, caught him off guard. He smiled slightly, reassuring her. "It's fine," he said. "You're not at the wrong table. I'm Liam." She smiled back, her cheeks slightly flushed, and introduced herself. "I'm Sarah. I think they've mixed us up." They both laughed awkwardly, and for a moment, Liam felt a strange connection, something different from the usual forced small talk. Sarah wasn't interested in his wealth or status. She seemed more intrigued by the conversation, by him, not by the man who owned a multi-million-dollar tech empire. As they sat down, the waiter brought over the drinks, but neither of them seemed in a rush. They spoke about everything and nothing, life, dreams, struggles, and yet, it felt so natural. Sarah shared how she was a delivery driver and a single mother, juggling 2 jobs to make ends meet. Her world was far from the high society Liam was used to, but that's what made it real. As they talked, Liam felt something stir inside him, a longing for something more than the hollow interactions with the models and socialites he had met before. She didn't care about his money, and that was exactly what he needed. But just as the conversation started to feel like something more, the phone in her pocket buzzed. She glanced at the screen, and her face changed. "I'm so sorry," she said, standing up. "I have to go. I'm late for picking up my son. I really enjoyed talking to you, though." Before he could say anything, she was gone, disappearing into the rain outside. Liam sat back in his chair, stunned. He wasn't sure what it was about her, but he knew he needed to see her again. The next day, he found himself unable to focus at work, his mind drifting back to that brief but meaningful encounter. He couldn't remember the last time someone had made him feel like he mattered beyond his wealth. But what could he do? He didn't know her name, except for Sarah. It wasn't enough. He had to find her. And that's when the idea hit him. He would find a way to meet her again, even if it meant stepping out of his comfort zone and doing something completely unexpected. The next morning, Liam couldn't shake the feeling of emptiness that lingered from the night before. The conversation with Sarah had left a mark on him. Something raw and unspoken had passed between them, something he couldn't ignore. He tried to go about his usual routine, diving into meetings, reviewing reports, and managing his growing empire, but his mind kept drifting back to her. She was unlike any woman he had met before. The models he usually dated cared only about his wealth, his status, or his connections. Sarah, on the other hand, didn't even seem to notice his wealth. She had spoken to him like he was just a person, not a millionaire CEO. It was the most refreshing thing he'd experienced in years. He knew he had to find her. His assistant, Claire, noticed his distracted mood. "You're not yourself today," she remarked, arching an eyebrow as Liam stared out of the office window. He didn't respond immediately, the thoughts swirling in his head. Finally, he turned to Claire. I need you to help me find someone. Who? Claire asked, curious. A woman. She was a delivery driver. I met her yesterday at a restaurant. Claire nodded, not questioning further. Liam could tell she was used to his sudden, odd requests. He hadn't given her much information, just a name, Sarah, and a vague description of their brief conversation. But Claire was good at what she did. He knew she would find her. That afternoon, as Liam sat at his desk, an email popped up from Claire. She had tracked Sarah down. She worked for a local delivery service, and her name was Sarah Johnson. He had an address, and most importantly, a phone number. Liam's heart raced with anticipation. Without a second thought, he dialed the number. It rang for what felt like an eternity before Sarah's voice answered. Hello, she said, a little guarded. Hi, Sarah. This is Liam. We met yesterday at the restaurant. There was a pause on the other end of the line, followed by a soft laugh. Oh, hey. I didn't expect to hear from you. I've been thinking about our conversation, Liam said, his voice more earnest than he intended. I was wondering if you'd like to meet again. Maybe for coffee this time, no mix-ups. He could hear her hesitation. I don't know. I really have a lot on my plate, she replied. Liam could sense she was nervous, but there was something about her that made him want to push forward. I understand, but I'd really like to see you again. No pressure, just a casual coffee. How about it? There was silence for a moment before she finally responded. Okay, coffee sounds good. Liam's smile returned, the excitement of the upcoming meeting bubbling inside him. He hadn't felt this way in a long time. The next day they met at a small, quiet cafe on the edge of town. The kind of place where nobody would notice them, where they could just be two people having a conversation. Sarah arrived first, looking casual but put together, as usual. Liam couldn't help but notice how different she looked from the women he was used to seeing at his company's high-end galas. She wasn't trying to impress anyone. She just was who she was. She greeted him with a warm smile as he sat down. I'm glad you came, he said, as they both sat down with their drinks. I wasn't sure you would. I wasn't sure either, she admitted with a chuckle. But you seemed different, and I guess I didn't mind giving this a shot. They talked about everything and nothing at all. Life, dreams, and the struggles they faced every day. Sarah shared stories about her son, her job, and her hopes for a better future. Liam listened intently, amazed at how effortlessly the conversation flowed. She wasn't interested in him for his money or status, and for the first time in years, that felt like a relief. As the coffee cups emptied and the conversation continued, Liam realized something important. This wasn't just a random encounter. There was something real here, something worth pursuing. And for the first time in a long time, he felt a sense of hope. Hope that maybe, just maybe, he wasn't alone in the world. As the meeting came to a close, Liam stood up, smiling. I'm glad we met again, Sarah. She smiled back, but there was a hint of sadness in her eyes. Me too. But I have to go. I've got work to do. I understand, Liam said. But deep down, he didn't want her to leave. Can we do this again? Maybe dinner next time? Sarah hesitated, then nodded. Sure. Dinner sounds nice. As she walked away, Liam stood there for a moment, watching her disappear into the crowd. He had no idea what the future held, but for the first time in a long time, he felt excited about it. The days following their coffee meeting felt like a blur to Liam. He couldn't focus on anything at work. His thoughts kept drifting back to Sarah. There was something about her sincerity, her authenticity, that pulled him in. As the week passed, he found himself looking forward to their next meeting more than anything. He knew he was falling for her, but he was careful not to rush things. He didn't want to push her away. The evening of their second meeting arrived, and Liam found himself waiting at a small, cozy restaurant they had both agreed upon. It wasn't one of those high-end places he usually frequented. It was quiet, intimate, the kind of place where the food was simple, but the ambience made you feel like you belonged. As Liam waited for Sarah, his mind raced. This was more than just a casual dinner. He could feel that. But what exactly was this? Was it just the excitement of meeting someone new? Or was there something deeper? He didn't know, but he wanted to find out. When Sarah walked in, she immediately caught his attention. She looked beautiful in a simple black dress, her hair falling loosely around her shoulders. But what struck him more than her appearance was the way she held herself. Confident, yet humble, a quality he hadn't seen in anyone for a long time. You look stunning, Liam said as she approached the table, his voice full of admiration. Sarah smiled a bit shyly. "Thank you. You clean up pretty well yourself," she replied, pulling out the chair to sit across from him. Their conversation started as easily as the first time. It was like they had known each other for years. They talked about everything: work, life, dreams, and disappointments. For Liam, it was a breath of fresh air. Sarah wasn't impressed by his wealth or status. She didn't care about his position or his business empire. She was interested in the person he was, the person he was becoming. It was an unsettling yet exhilarating feeling for him. They shared their stories, laughed about little things, and even argued over the best kind of pizza. The evening flowed effortlessly, and before Liam knew it, they were the last ones left in the restaurant. When the check arrived, Liam reached for it, but Sarah's hand stopped him. "I've got this," she said, pulling out her wallet. Liam was taken aback for a moment. "No, I invited you. Let me pay," he insisted. Sarah shook her head with a smile. "I've got this one. It's my treat." Liam looked at her, puzzled. "Why?" he asked. She shrugged, her smile softening. "Because you've done so much for me already, and I appreciate it. Besides, I think you've been spoiled with people always paying for you." Liam chuckled, not knowing how to respond. But deep down, her gesture meant more than just paying for dinner. It was the first time someone had shown kindness to him without expecting anything in return. As they left the restaurant and stepped into the cool evening air, Liam couldn't help but feel that this was just the beginning. He had no idea where this would go, but he knew one thing for sure: he wanted to find out. They exchanged goodbyes, and as Sarah walked away, Liam watched her disappear into the night, already planning their next meeting. This wasn't just about a simple dinner anymore. It was about something deeper, something real. He had to know what that was. As the days passed, Liam found himself thinking about Sarah more and more. What started as a simple coffee date had quickly turned into something much more significant. He didn't know how to explain it, but there was something magnetic about her. She had a way of making him feel seen, not for his wealth, not for his position, but for who he was as a person. It was a feeling he hadn't experienced in a long time. He had always been surrounded by people who were either trying to climb the social ladder or interested in his money. But Sarah was different. She wasn't interested in that. She was grounded, hardworking, and real. Her honesty was refreshing, and every moment spent with her felt like a breath of fresh air. One evening, Liam called Sarah to invite her out for dinner again. This time, he wanted to take her somewhere special. He picked a small Italian restaurant that he had visited once and loved. The kind of place with dim lighting, a cozy atmosphere, and food that tasted like it came from the heart. Sarah agreed, and they met at the restaurant, just the two of them. As they sat down and began to talk, Liam felt more at ease than he ever had. The conversation flowed effortlessly, with laughter and easy silences. But there was something in the air that night. Something different. It was the way Sarah looked at him, the way her eyes softened when she spoke about her son, her struggles, and her dreams. She was opening up in a way she hadn't before, and Liam felt honored to be the one she trusted with her thoughts. After a few hours of talking, Sarah seemed to hesitate, as if there was something on her mind. Liam noticed the change in her demeanor. "What's on your mind?" he asked, his voice gentle. Sarah took a deep breath before speaking. "I don't know if this is moving too fast, but I feel like I need to be honest with you about something." Her words caught him off guard. He sat up straighter, his curiosity piqued. "Of course. You can tell me anything." Sarah looked down at her hands for a moment before looking up at him. "I'm a single mom, Liam. My life is complicated. I don't want you to think I'm looking for anything from you, but I just need you to understand the reality of my situation." Liam's heart softened as he listened to her. He had known she was a mother, but hearing her speak so openly about it made him realize how much she carried. "I don't expect anything from you," Sarah continued. I don't want to drag you into my mess, you know? My life isn't simple, and I have a lot of responsibilities." Liam reached across the table and took her hand in his. "Sarah, you don't have to worry about that. I'm not going anywhere. I want to be here for you." His words were sincere, and he meant every one of them. Sarah looked at him, her eyes filled with a mix of relief and uncertainty. She squeezed his hand, but her expression still held a trace of hesitation. "I don't want to get hurt," she admitted. "I've been through a lot, and I don't know if I'm ready to open up completely." Liam understood. He had been through his own struggles, his own loneliness. But in this moment, with Sarah sitting across from him, He felt something he hadn't felt in a long time, a deep connection. "You don't have to rush anything, Sarah," he said softly. "We can take this one step at a time. There's no pressure." The tension in the air seemed to lift, and for the first time, Sarah smiled. It was a genuine smile, one that made Liam's heart skip a beat. "Thank you," she whispered. "I needed to hear that." As the evening came to a close, they left the restaurant, the streets lit by the glow of the city lights. Liam couldn't help but feel hopeful. He wasn't sure where this would go, but for the first time in a long time, he felt like he was exactly where he needed to be, with Sarah. And maybe, just maybe, this could be the start of something real. The following days after their conversation, Liam found himself in a state of quiet anticipation. The connection he felt with Sarah was undeniable, but he knew he couldn't rush things. Sarah had been through a lot, and he understood that. She wasn't just a woman with a story. She was a mother, a woman with responsibilities that far exceeded his world of high-rise offices and business meetings. Yet, for some reason, he couldn't stop thinking about her. He wanted to learn more about her world, about the struggles she faced every day. But more importantly, he wanted to be there for her. He had been around enough to know that being present meant more than just showing up. It meant understanding and supporting her, even when things were messy. One evening, after a week of sporadic texts and phone calls, Sarah reached out. She wanted to meet him again, but this time, she said, she wanted him to meet someone important. Liam was intrigued. "Someone important?" he asked. "Who?" Sarah didn't give him a direct answer, but she promised it would be worth it. They decided to meet at a quiet park near her place. Liam arrived a little early, his mind racing with questions. Who was Sarah talking about? Was it her son? A family member? A close friend? His thoughts were interrupted when Sarah arrived, walking briskly toward him. Her usual calm demeanor seemed a bit off, but she smiled when she saw him. "Hey," she greeted him, her tone soft but nervous. "Ready?" Liam nodded, though he wasn't sure what he was getting into. They walked side by side through the park, the cool air brushing against them. The walk felt different this time, more intimate, as if they were stepping into a new chapter. They reached a small playground at the edge of the park, where a little boy was playing with a ball, kicking it back and forth. Sarah's face softened as she watched him. Liam followed her gaze, and realized that the little boy was hers. "This is my son, Jamie," Sarah said quietly, her voice filled with affection as she watched him play. Liam smiled, watching the child chase the ball across the grass. It wasn't the first time he had seen a child in Sarah's life, but something about seeing her with Jamie made everything feel more real. "He's a great kid," Liam said, his voice warm. Sarah's eyes glistened with pride. "He's everything to me," she replied, turning to face him. "I've been a single mom for a long time. It hasn't been easy, but he's worth it." They stood there for a while, watching Jamie laugh and run around, his innocence and energy filling the space between them. Liam couldn't help but feel a deep respect for Sarah. She had sacrificed so much, and yet there she was, giving her all to Jamie, with no complaints, no regrets. After a few minutes, Jamie came running over to them, panting with excitement. "Mom, look, I kicked the ball really far," he said, grinning widely. Sarah bent down to give him a hug, laughing softly. "Good job, buddy," she said. Then she looked up at Liam, her expression shifting. "Liam, this is Jamie." Liam crouched down to Jamie's level, offering his hand. "Nice to meet you, Jamie." Jamie grinned and shook his hand, his small hand barely able to grasp Liam's. "You're big," he said, laughing. Liam chuckled, his heart melting a little. "I guess I am," he said, standing back up. Sarah watched them for a moment, her face softening as she looked at Liam. "You don't have to say anything, Liam. I just wanted you to meet him. I want you to know what I'm balancing. It's not just about me." Liam nodded, his heart heavy with emotion. He had never imagined this moment. Here he was, meeting Sarah's son, someone she clearly loved more than anything else in the world. "I understand," he said, his voice low but sincere. "And I'm here for both of you. If you ever need anything." He trailed off, unsure of what to say. Sarah smiled, her eyes reflecting a mix of relief and hesitation. "Thank you," she whispered. The quiet between them felt full of meaning, and Liam knew that this was a turning point. It wasn't just about him and Sarah anymore. It was about her son, too. And for the first time, Liam realized he was ready for that. He was ready to step into their world, to be a part of it, even if it meant taking things slowly. As they walked back together, Jamie running ahead, Sarah turned to Liam. You know, it's not easy for me to let people in, she said, her voice a little shakier than usual. But I'm glad I'm letting you in. Liam's heart warmed at her words. I'm glad too, he said, his voice steady. And I'm not going anywhere. As the night fell and they parted ways, Liam felt a sense of peace settle in his chest. He didn't know what the future held, but in that moment, with Sarah and Jamie, he knew he was on the right path. The days after meeting Jamie were a whirlwind of emotions for Liam. His world had suddenly expanded in a way he hadn't expected. It wasn't just Sarah anymore. It was her son too, and their bond was undeniable. Every time Liam saw Sarah, there was a new layer to their connection. But there was also a growing uncertainty. He had always been careful about his emotions, especially when it came to matters of the heart. He didn't want to rush things, not with Sarah, not with Jamie. But the more time he spent with them, the clearer it became. He was falling for her, and he wanted to be there for both of them, no matter what. One evening, after work, Liam decided to do something special. He had been thinking about it for a while. He wanted to show Sarah that he was serious about them. He called her and asked if she and Jamie would like to join him for dinner, a casual evening at his place. Sarah agreed, and Liam spent the next few hours preparing. It wasn't a grand meal, just a simple dinner, but he wanted it to be perfect. He didn't need fancy food or expensive wine. He just wanted them to feel comfortable. When Sarah and Jamie arrived, the warm glow of the kitchen welcomed them. Liam had made spaghetti, Jamie's favorite, and the table was set simply but thoughtfully. Wow, this looks amazing, Sarah said, her eyes softening as she took in the cozy setting. Jamie immediately ran to the table, his eyes wide in excitement. Is this all for us? He asked, his voice full of wonder. Liam laughed, ruffling Jamie's hair. Of course, buddy. It's all for you. As they sat down to eat, the conversation flowed easily. Sarah and Liam talked about their days, and Jamie shared stories about school and his friends. For a moment, it felt like a normal family dinner, something Liam hadn't realized he longed for until that very moment. But as the evening went on, Liam noticed Sarah was quieter than usual. She seemed lost in thought, her smile not reaching her eyes. He could tell something was bothering her, but he didn't want to push. After dinner, they all moved to the living room, where Jamie immediately jumped onto the couch, flipping through a book. Sarah and Liam sat down across from him, the room growing quiet for a moment. Finally, Liam broke the silence. Hey, what's on your mind? He asked softly, his gaze focused on her. Sarah hesitated, her fingers fidgeting with the hem of her sweater. It's nothing, she said, but Liam could see the hesitation in her eyes. Sarah, you can talk to me, he said gently. You know that, right? She let out a deep breath, looking down before meeting his eyes. I'm just scared, she admitted. I've been on my own for so long, and I've done everything for Jamie. But now, I feel like I'm letting someone else into our little world, and I'm not sure if I'm ready for that. Liam's heart softened. He understood her fear. I get it, he said, his voice steady. I don't want to rush you, Sarah. I'm not here to make things complicated. I'm just here for you and Jamie. Whenever you're ready. There was a long pause, and then Sarah smiled, a small, genuine smile. Thank you, Liam, she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. I didn't expect this, but you make me feel safe. Liam felt a weight lift off his chest. They were still figuring things out, but in that moment, he knew they were taking the right steps. The evening ended with Sarah and Jamie heading home, but as Liam watched them walk away, he felt more certain than ever that this was where he was meant to be. He wasn't just a CEO or a millionaire. He was a man who had found something real, something that mattered more than all the wealth he had ever accumulated. And for the first time in a long time, he was ready to let go of his past fears and embrace the future, whatever it might hold for him, Sarah, and Jamie. The next few weeks felt like a delicate balancing act for Liam. Things with Sarah and Jamie were going well, but he could tell there was still some hesitancy in Sarah. She had been hurt before, and the last thing Liam wanted was to rush her or make her feel pressured. He had made that mistake in the past, trying to force things to happen too quickly, but this time, he was determined to take things slow, to let them build naturally. One evening, as he was finishing up at work, he received a call from Sarah. Liam, I need to talk to you about something, she said, her voice strained. Is everything okay? Liam asked, concern rising in his chest. There was a brief pause before she responded. I'm not sure, but I think we need to talk about us. The words hit Liam like a wave. He had been dreading this moment, knowing that Sarah's past made her cautious. But he wasn't ready to let go of what they had built. Okay, he said, trying to keep his voice calm. Do you want to meet? Yeah, let's meet at the park, she replied softly. I'll be there in 15 minutes. Liam's heart raced as he grabbed his jacket and left the office. The park was their place, the place where they first introduced Jamie to him, where things had started to feel real. He drove there in silence, the weight of the conversation ahead hanging heavily on his shoulders. When he arrived, Sarah was already there, standing near the fountain, her hands wrapped around her coat as the cold evening air blew gently through the trees. Hey, he said softly as he approached. Sarah turned to face him, offering a small smile. Hi, she replied. There was a long moment of silence before she spoke again. Liam, I've been thinking a lot about us, she began, her voice faltering slightly. And I think I might have been pushing you away without even realizing it. Liam took a deep breath, stepping closer. Sarah, you don't have to apologize. I know you've been through a lot, and I'm not trying to rush you. I want this to work, but only when you're ready. Sarah met his eyes, her expression filled with uncertainty. That's just it, Liam. I'm scared. I'm scared of how much I care, and I'm scared of what it means if this doesn't work out. Liam's heart ached as he listened to her. He knew that fear, that doubt. I understand, he said, his voice steady. But Sarah, I'm not going anywhere. I'm here for you. And if you ever need time, I'll give it to you. I don't want you to feel like you have to do this on anyone's timeline but your own. Sarah blinked back tears, her face softening as she stepped closer to him. You're not like anyone I've met before, Liam. And I don't want to mess this up. But I also don't want to hold back if this is something real. It is real, Liam said, his voice firm with conviction. I care about you, Sarah. I care about Jamie. And I'm willing to take whatever time you need to figure this out. The tension that had been building in Sarah seemed to release, her shoulders relaxing as she smiled softly. Thank you, she whispered. Liam reached out, gently cupping her face in his hands. You don't have to thank me. I'm just glad we're talking about this. The cold air around them seemed to disappear, replaced by a warmth that neither of them had expected. Sarah leaned into his touch, her eyes closing for a brief moment. I want to believe in this, Liam. I really do. Liam smiled, his heart full. Then believe in us. We'll figure this out together. As they stood there, their hands finding each other, it was clear to Liam that this was more than just a relationship. It was a journey they would take together, step by step, no matter what. And for the first time in a long time, he felt like he wasn't just living for himself anymore. He was living for them, Sarah and Jamie, and that was more than enough. As the weeks went by, the bond between Liam, Sarah, and Jamie grew stronger, but the lingering doubts that had haunted Sarah began to resurface. She had always been protective of her heart, and even more so of her son's. She had been through too much to risk it all for something that could end in disappointment. Yet, every time she saw Liam, she felt a sense of peace that she hadn't known in years. He was patient, understanding, and genuine in a way that made it hard for her to ignore what was growing between them. One chilly evening, as they walked home from dinner together, Sarah finally brought up the question that had been weighing on her for weeks. Liam, I've been thinking, she began, her voice tentative. About us. About everything. Liam turned to her, sensing the seriousness in her tone. He gave her the space to speak, letting her choose her words. I don't want to be unfair to you, she continued. I've been holding back. I'm scared, and I don't know if I can keep doing this. I can't risk my heart again, and I certainly can't risk Jamie's. Liam stopped walking, turning to face her. He could see the worry in her eyes, the fear of opening herself up completely. He reached out and gently took her hands in his. Sarah, he said softly, I understand your fear. I've been there too. I know what it's like to be scared of getting hurt. But I'm not going anywhere. I'm here because I want to be here. And I want to be here for you and for Jamie, no matter what. Sarah's breath caught in her throat. But what if it doesn't work out? What if I'm just dragging you into this mess? Liam smiled, his eyes filled with sincerity. It's not a mess, Sarah. It's life. And life isn't always perfect. But that doesn't mean it's not worth living. I don't expect perfection, and I don't want it. I just want to be with you. And if that means taking it slow, I'm okay with that. If that means working through your doubts together, I'm ready. Sarah looked at him, her heart racing. The vulnerability in his words, the honesty in his eyes, made it impossible to ignore what they had. For the first time in months, she felt a flicker of hope. She wasn't alone in this. Liam wasn't asking for perfection, just the chance to be with her, to be part of their lives. "I don't want to let fear control me anymore," she whispered. "I don't want to keep holding back. You've been so patient, and I think I'm ready to let go of the fear." Liam's heart swelled with relief. He knew that taking things slow was the right choice. But hearing her finally say the words he had been hoping for made everything feel like it was falling into place. He pulled her into a gentle embrace, wrapping his arms around her as if to reassure both of them that they were in this together. "We'll take it one step at a time," Liam said softly. "There's no rush. I'm just glad you're ready to take that step with me." They stood there for a moment, the world around them fading into the background. For once, it felt like the right decision had been made. They were ready to move forward, together. The next day, they spent the afternoon in the park with Jamie, laughing and talking like a family. It wasn't perfect, but it didn't have to be. As they walked through the park, Sarah caught Liam's hand in hers, a silent promise between them. She didn't know what the future held, but for the first time in a long time, she felt like she could face it with him by her side. And that was enough. Months passed, and the life Liam had once known began to feel like a distant memory. It wasn't just his work, his empire, or his wealth that defined him anymore. It was Sarah, Jamie, and the new life they were building together. Every day felt like a new chapter, each moment richer than the last. They had their challenges, of course, but they faced them together, learning to navigate the ups and downs as a family. Sarah had learned to trust Liam, and Liam had learned to understand the complexities of her life, especially as a single mother. With every shared laugh, every quiet moment spent with Jamie, he knew that he had found something far more valuable than any business deal. One evening, as the sun began to set and the warm glow of the city cast a gentle light over their lives, Liam stood in the living room, nervously fiddling with a small box in his pocket. He had been planning this moment for weeks, but now that it was finally here, he felt his heart race with anticipation. He had never been more sure of anything in his life. Sarah had walked into the room, smiling as she noticed Liam's nervous energy. "What's going on?" she asked, her curiosity piqued. Liam turned to her, his eyes soft and sincere. "I have something to ask you," he said, his voice steady but filled with emotion. Sarah tilted her head, a smile playing on her lips. "What is it?" she asked. "Sarah," Liam began, taking a deep breath. "I've never been good at this. I've spent most of my life focused on building my business, my career, and I forgot what it was like to truly care for someone. But you and Jamie have shown me what's important. I can't imagine my life without you, without both of you." His heart pounded in his chest as he knelt down, pulling the small box from his pocket. Sarah's breath caught as she saw the ring inside. "I'm not asking for perfection," Liam continued, his voice filled with warmth and sincerity. "But I want to spend the rest of my life with you. Will you marry me?" Sarah stood frozen for a moment, her eyes wide as the weight of his words settled in. She had always dreamed of a love like this, but she had been so afraid to let anyone in. Yet here she was, standing in front of the man who had proven to her that love could be safe, real, and unconditional. A tear slipped down her cheek as she nodded. "Yes, Liam. Yes." Liam's face broke into a smile as he stood, taking her hand and sliding the ring onto her finger. In that moment, the world around them seemed to fade away. It was just the two of them, their love, and the future they would build together. Later that evening, they sat on the couch, Jamie nestled between them as they talked about what their future would look like. They weren't perfect, and they knew there would be more challenges ahead, but they were ready. Together, they were stronger than ever. As Liam held Sarah's hand, he couldn't help but smile. He had found something far more important than success in the business world. He had found love, family, and the promise of a lifetime together. And that, he realized, was the greatest achievement of all.